are now about to witness the strength of
Shama
Llama.
Ding Dong.
Two friends with a passion for combat sports. One's an actor, the other's a ring announcer. Together, we bring to you the CLDD Podcast.
Wow, man, this is episode 3 of the Shama Lama Ding Dong Podcast, the CLDD Podcast. Episode 3 already, Aaron.
Look at that, 3. Third time's the charm, right?
Yeah, third time's a charm. As for those of you listening, I'm one half of the show. I'm Ryan Ventura, and my co-host Aaron Stewart. Hello.
Hello. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good, thank you. I had a very, very, very busy week. You had a crazy weekend too. Did you go party on the weekend?
Yeah. A mutual friend of ours. He knows some people, so we saw Dr. Fresh last night. He's great. His sets are always fantastic.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a good vibe. And I haven't been going out too much lately.
Yeah.
I stuck to the waters and a Red Bull, so I was responsible, of course.
That a boy.
No, it was a good time. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but sometimes the Peony Forum just isn't the right venue.
That's what
That's
what I've heard. For those of you that are listening in on the podcast, I've been working in nightlife for many years, and that's how Aaron and I met. We met through music festivals, we met through parties and mutual friends, and we go to so many of these events all over the world. Aaron's been to lots, I've been to lots, and the Peony Forum in Vancouver, Canada, it doesn't necessarily have the best reputation for sound quality, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't want the Peony or Blueprint or any promotion or anything like that to come after me. I think everyone collectively agreed that the sound wasn't the best last night. Even the artist playing, I think, would say the same thing. So
that's really unfortunate.
You know what? You can't win them all. Some places have great sound, some places don't. I think that's just the entertainment industry in a nutshell. So
yeah. But all in all, you had a great weekend.
Oh yeah, it was good. I caught the BFL fights on Thursday. That was a long night for you, man. I kudos to keeping yourself spry and alert, especially when you're announcing those guys.
Oh man, yeah. Long day.
What else happened?
We had a PFL Nurmagomedov versus big news Paul Hughes. That was a heck of a fight. That was worth waking up early for.
Yeah, especially when you look at a card like that really felt like a one fight card. I mean, you can argue that the Nemkov Tim Johnson co-main. I just didn't think it had too much implications, but I think Nemkov did exactly what he needed to do and what we expected him to do in that situation. But I think, and I'm sure we'll get more into this, that if you didn't know who Paul Hughes is now, before this, now you do. And I think
for sure.
I with the point deduction, I think in the third, the takedowns, his takedown defense, I think that was outside of the UFC, probably the highest level lightweight fight that I've seen, especially a title fight in that regard, that I've seen in a really long time. And I think that, I'm sure these guys are going to face each other again in the future.
For sure.
It'd be really cool if they did that in Ireland. I know PFL has at least Bellator had a good stamp in Northern Ireland as well as Dublin. So it'd be really cool if they got maybe down the road that fight happens again. I could entertain an immediate rematch, but I don't know what the plans are. But I
feel like they need the strength
for him.
Yeah. Well, while we're at it, let's just focus on this main event in particular that happened at the PFL Road to Dubai between big news Paul Hughes and Usman Nurmagomedov. Now, I remember back in the day growing up, the lightweight division, even during the early Zuffa era, the lightweight division in general has always been a murderer's row of the best fighters in the world. So back in the day when many could say that Pride FC was the best promotion in the world, they had guys like Prime Takanori Gomi, they had guys like Shinya Aoki that were coming up, and they had young guys that were coming up, they had Gilbert Melendez, they had Eddie Alvarez, that was Dream. But like a lot of the best fighters in the world were 155, hands down.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, in not just UFC. Of course, you had guys like Sean Shirk, you had BJ Penn, you had Diego Sanchez, Kenny Florian, Joe Stevenson. Like I think as far as I can remember, was watching this, being a fan of the sport, like lightweight has always been. I mean, obviously, there's like it's kind of like the star division as well.
Yeah. It's the star division.
Especially nowadays, you guys got like, not only like Islam and, all these guys coming up like Moicano and Paddy, but you've also got like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, of course. So it's like, it's really, it for some reason has this unshakable ability to be one of, like, across the board, the most exciting division in the sport.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who didn't know who Paul Hughes was kind of thought, who's this guy fighting one of Khabib's, I think, what is it, Khabib's cousin? He's the younger brother of Umar. And obviously the name, as we said last week, carries a lot of reputation. And I think most people, even fans, were expecting this to be like pretty much like a landslide victory for Usman.
Really? They thought it would be very easy?
Well, yeah, I just think that not a lot of people knew who Paul Hughes was. And I've been following him for a while, and I just think that like he intended to shock the world, and I think he still did. I think like you don't see people like that going toe to toe, winning a majority decision is like, obviously Umar lost last week to Merab, but like these guys don't lose. Like, they don't lose fights ever. So they are now, I think, if my calculations are correct, are 92-2 between Khabib, Islam, Usman, and Umar. So
yeah, that's a crazy statistic. Now, one thing that really stood out to me in that fight was, man, the takedown defense and the timing of Paul Hughes, man. I feel like if this was to go, if they were to have an immediate rematch, this could be a very different fight. And especially when they deducted the point from Usman. Like, when they deducted that point, I knew the game changed, and I knew that, like, going into the decision, especially like the one judge, they called it a draw. Remember, I was messaging you, and I was saying, I'm like, this could be a draw, man. Like,
could be a draw.
Yeah.
I and that's the thing. Is like the thing is with draws, like as we've seen with like the flyweights with Davison and Brendan Moreno, and then we saw the Alessa Grasso Valentina Shevchenko 2 fight. Yeah, that's great. It's like, on one hand, you don't want these divisions and these titles to be held up with the same guys fighting the same people.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just like, not to disparage PFL or their tournament structure or anything like that, or Bellator for that matter, but it's like, I just want to see the best fights, and this was the best fight they could put on, and it's the best fight they could continue to put on at the lightweight division. And I mean, it's really exciting to have an Irish guy from my heritage. I don't know. We're not sponsored or anything, but I am wearing my Guinness sweater.
Yeah.
If Guinness would ever like to sponsor me in my lifetime, I'm totally open to the concept.
Of course.
But yeah, like, again, it was like a 1-fight card, really, realistically. And it was at least next to the Merab and Umar fight. I think it's so far one of my contenders for fight of the year. And look, I agree. We're 26 days into the 2025 year. So, like, come December, I'll probably have a list of like 10 fights that deserve to be considered. So
yeah, for sure. And like, getting closer to the end of the year, we should probably like compile a list of our favorite fights of the year and talk about them.
That'd be sweet. A little like kind of awards recap or something. That'd be
An unofficial awards recap, a holiday recap. One thing that I really liked about this particular event too, not just the fight itself, was I feel like in the Middle East, like there's some sort of big renaissance for combat sports in the Middle East in general. Like, that place was packed. That place was packed in Dubai, and I don't think there were a lot of those were like comped tickets. Those are like actual legitimate paying customers. Of course, there's a lot of people that are there. They have money, right? And like, they don't spare any expense when it comes to the events, but that place was packed. They had a huge crowd, and it had like a big contingent of Irish people supporting Paul too.
Yeah, I think and as we've seen before with the Conor fights, when Conor fought in Vegas or Madison Square Garden, or the Irish fans are incredibly loyal in that regard, and they really do they really like come out for their guys, and I think that's great. I mean, right now the Irish MMA scene is a little bit, I guess you could say, a little bit jaded with how certain things have played out. But then you've got guys like Ian Gary and a few others that, especially like Sean O'Bannon, who I think is fighting in the UK card. It's like a slow and steady rebuild from this new era. I think that when you've got guys like Ian and Paul Hughes, like they really are like the premier of the Irish fighters. I know, like I said, I know Bellator has a lot of like a stamp with Irish talent. They've always had guys like Peter Queally and like James Gallagher. Those guys. So they've always had a good footprint in that, and I think that as the sport continues to evolve, and like they marked this thing as Dagestan versus Ireland too. I think that was something that was said. Yeah, and then fight was first announced, or at least when Paul beat AJ McKee. And I don't think it had nearly as much tenacity or vitriol as
and it didn't need it. It really didn't.
It didn't. I mean, like, obviously, like if you put that on a poster, it might sell. But I mean, these two guys, and especially like the build up of the fight, and then you seeing them do these face offs, and it was really interesting to me watching how Paul came in with such a like an unbridled sense of confidence, really, really cerebral, really believed that he was the guy to, like he always said, I'm here to shock the world. I'm here to be a new champ. And like the camera cuts to Usman and he's like laughing, like, who do you think you are? And then you fast forward to at the end of the fight and Usman's like, yeah, you're the real deal, dude. Like,
yeah. The respect level just went way up, and I really did appreciate the level of that fight. Easily, hands down, the highest level fight outside of the UFC, hands down. Yeah, hands down.
Couldn't agree more. Again, like I said, I'm gutted that Paul didn't win, but I think this only raises the stock of both guys. Whatever, a loss is a loss. I think that this could be a really great rivalry. It keeps that, it keeps that kind of, what do you call it? Like narrative of like the Ireland and the Dagestani guys. But I think that these guys have injected some positivity into that
rivalry,
into that headline.
Yeah.
So I think that's really great. I don't know what PFL, these Road to Dubai things, like, I mean, they're interesting. Like I didn't know a lot of the card, but a lot of those Middle Eastern fighters are on there, and there's quite a few finishes on the card. Who was I watching? I hear that this Ibrahimov, who I'm not going to do a good job of this one. He defeated how do you say that guy's name? Kenny
Mokahana. We're so sorry, Kenny.
I know I absolutely cooked that one, but no, I've been hearing that Ibrahimov is kind of like the next guy in the Khabib kind of camp that looks to be making a name for himself. What they fought at? What class was that?
It says
weight.
Was that
7?
Yeah,
I guess it'd be a featherweight. Yeah, I guess it might have been a catch weight. But I've heard nothing but good things from this guy. He's based out of
Dagestan, but UK.
Well, he's based out of the UK.
Yeah,
I believe Manchester. I could be wrong, but
no, you're right, Manchester.
And I didn't know anything about him until the lead up to this fight of this week. So maybe he's a guy to have your eye on, see where he goes, which is exciting. It's always exciting to see where the next guy is coming from. So
yeah. I hope that as we close this off, because really there outside of this main event, there isn't like anything major importance to chat about. But if the PFL is smart, they gotta really build upon, like, you know, creating these new stars like the Usman Nurmagomedovs, like the Paul Hugheses of the world, and, you know, take advantage of this rather than trying to piggyback off of, say, you know, Francis Ngannou. Like, I mean, like, you know, we all love Francis Ngannou. He is one of the baddest men on the planet, hands down. But, you know, like, their last pay-per-view that they did with him headlining, it didn't do the best numbers, right? So, like, you know, they need to, like, really, like, you know, outside of just mainly doing that, build these stars, focus on them, find the right markets for them. Like, you know, maybe Usman and Paul might not sell as many tickets in the US, but, like, you know, you saw what they did in Dubai, and they'll for damn sure sell a lot of tickets in Ireland if Paul Hughes is headlining, right?
Yeah, whether they're going to do that at realistically, they'd probably be somewhere like the 3 Arena, which has a good reputation of doing well. I mean, I don't think it's the biggest venue, but again, you know, the fans come out, and this is exactly what I think Irish MMA needed, along with guys like Ian Gary, to just ignite some positivity into the scene, into like the development of those fighters. So yeah, I think I think that's what PFL would need to do, like keep fostering this ability to create stars for their sport. I know they're doing a great job with Dakota Decheva. I mean, they had that, like Olivier Aubin-Mercier, who's Canadian born. He recently retired, obviously, and then but you've got a lot of guys on that roster that have the ability to carve out and be their own star through the PFL, and not just be like UFC rejects or castaways, you know?
Yeah. The one thing that, like, I never understood as you know, as someone from the outside looking in, as a fan, like, I never understood, like, you know, why there's so many promotions out there that are trying to be, like, you know, the next UFC, the next big competitor. I wish that, like, you know, they just were like, for example, I guess, like, a good comparison would be like craft beer versus, like, you know, mainstream beer, right?
Yeah.
Like, why focus on trying to be like the next Budweiser or a Heineken when you could be like you know, like Parallel 49, like, you know, some craft breweries. Find your own niche, find your own market that works for you, rather than trying to, like, overtop someone else.
Absolutely. You want to establish a brand, and you want to be unique. I do think that, you know, they did try that thing with, like, the season format and the how the season works with the points. And at the end of the day, like, I think we said this before, it just did overcomplicate things. I think by and large, MMA fans just want to watch good fights.
That's it.
Exciting matchups, and they want to get invested in careers and look forward to see, like, what they're going to do next. So I think this is a step in the right direction for PFL, just given, you know, as of lately, they're a little rocky here or there. I mean, that's to be determined. I'm not an expert, like you said. I'm on the outside looking in. So, but this is, I think, elevated the brand as well as the fighters' platforms significantly. And I mean, and then we could talk about Nemkov. I don't know what's next for Nemkov, but
Nemkov's been in the game for a long time, and he's you know, he's been like he's been a Fedor team guy for a long time. I don't know, like, you know, if I mean, never say never. Like, you know, maybe the UFC could be an option for him one day, but I mean, like, he's been a long time Bellator guy, I guess, a long time into PFL now, and, like, they treat him well, they pay him well. You know, why would you want to leave that situation, right?
Yeah, and then that's why I think, I mean, like, I don't know what the most exciting matchup outside of boxing, because I mean, I don't know what the most exciting fight for Francis would be right now, but I mean, if you're looking at, like, a meritocracy standpoint, I mean, Nemkov seems like a perfectly good option for him to fight. I don't know if that's the sexiest fight, if it's the most exciting matchup to put on paper, but I mean, I wouldn't say no to seeing that fight. I wouldn't say no to that matchup, but whether that is to happen, that is to be determined.
That probably, like, would make the most sense, you know, like you said, like, within a meritocracy standpoint, to just have those two guys go up against each other. And I don't know, like, you know, the way that they could, like, probably, like, angle it, it's like, you know, the current baddest man on the planet, the #1 heavyweight in the world, you know, they have to roll with that, even though we both know it's Tom Aspinall. But, like,
Correct.
Right?
Carry on.
Yeah, they have to roll with that. They have to roll with that. But like they could say, Vadim Nemkov, he's a student of the great Fedor Emelianenko, the former baddest man on the planet. That's how you book it, man.
Well, that's the thing, like it's not incredibly hard to promote these fights. Not that I'm an expert by any means, but
Yeah.
I mean, you just look at the resume, you look at the pedigree, you look at the background, and Francis. I mean, I look forward to whenever they make a movie about that guy's life.
Me too.
It's incredible. We could talk. I'm sure people know, but yeah, we could talk for ages on like what that guy has gone through, and just at this point, Francis has won. He could ride off into the sunset at any time he wanted to, and I'd still say he was going down as one of the greatest of all time. So
I agree. What a story. What a man. Well, I guess we could segue into Knuckle Mania, bare knuckle fighting. I watched a bit of that card. Honestly, those cards, there's never a dull moment on those cards, but it's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't.
Oh no, it isn't. And it's kudos. Sometimes you watch these boxing cards and it's 45 minutes in between the co-main and the main event. It's I think the pageantry of the Riyadh season events are really exciting, but do we need the concerts? Do we need the build up? It's just I really appreciated with BKFC. It's just it was fights over, next fight. Fights over, next fight.
Yeah,
The rounds are 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
The pacing is so snappy. It's just adrenaline through and through. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's just it is a nonstop event. I recently just caught up and watched the BKFC main event. I thought Eddie looked great.
Yeah, he
all
did.
Said and done. I thought he had some really good moments, especially in round 2. In round 3, it just seemed, and Jeremy Stevens, kudos to him. He came in swinging. I saw the face off afterwards. I mean, I'm sure it in a weird roundabout way, it's pretty hilarious seeing Conor face off with who the fuck is that guy after all these years. So that's pretty hilarious.
That's long-term storytelling.
Oh, it's it's a really good callback, but it just I think with everything Conor going on right now, it's kind of hard to tell. I get that he's part of BKFC, and honestly, I saw some of the promotion stuff that he was doing at the dais, and the guy knows how to promote a fight. It was really he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He's turning fists into knives, all that stuff. It was really entertaining. So whether or not, and I think Dave Feldman, who's the president of BKFC, said right before he left the press conference, he said that Conor wanted me to tell the press that him and Jeremy Stevens are going to fight in BKFC. And it's yeah, well, Conor said he was going to fight Dan Hooker in Saudi Arabia. Conor said he was going to fight Michael Chandler. He said he was going to fight Pacquiao. He said he was going to get the Floyd rematch. He said a lot of things. So, as you and I have discussed many times, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no. I'll watch him and bare knuckle with Jeremy Stevens, but I just think that he's kind of getting into Vince McMahon territory, not more on the promoter is also an athlete and a fighter in the system. So, I don't think. I mean, whatever. I guess there's no rules with BKFC, so
yeah. Well,
let him cook. I don't know.
Yeah, let him cook for sure. But obviously, the biggest, let's just let's try to break this down a little bit, because obviously this would never happen unless, number one, the UFC lets it happen, right? They do a co-promotion, and number two, they let him out of his contract. I mean, I know we're not experts in law or anything like that, but I feel at this point the UFC, they don't need Conor. I don't think
they
so.
Need him, and I think that actually costs them more money to have him around than it does to actually promote fights with him. But I mean, they let him. I mean, he can do business ventures all he wants, but they basically. When he became a co-owner with BKFC, there wasn't really much animosity there.
No.
I think that once he starts trying to actually get fights, is I mean, again, we don't know how contracts work, but Yeah, I mean, I know he has like 2 fights left on his contract with the UFC. I'm sure that if he does fight sometime this year, which I think we expect him to, or hope he does, or we think he might, there's obviously going to be some huge negotiations going on with that, because especially as the UFC get into a new, TV rights deal, broadcasting deal. So, you want to have someone like Conor on your roster because he's Conor, regardless of what's going on right now. I think that, he still is the biggest name in the sport. But again, like we said, I will believe these things when I actually see them. When they are face to face and they are throwing blows, then I'll believe that fight will actually happen.
That would be so awesome, just because I remember, like it was yesterday when Jeremy Stevens and Conor were going back and forth, and that was, Conor at his prime, not just in the fighting sense, but in terms of how he communicates with people and promoting a fight. That was just masterful.
Was that actually during the Madison Square Garden card when he went for double champ status against Eddie Alvarez?
I believe so.
That's even funny. Well, it's just crazy that not to say that any of these guys are past their prime or anything, but it's just a new era, and seeing guys in that situation and then seeing them now in this BKFC situation is just, it's pretty absurd, but kind of hilarious all at once.
Yeah. I mean, but we'll close off on this pretty soon. But in regards to Conor coming back, I guess one thing that would really make sense with all these big rumors about the UFC going the WWE route and having a deal with Netflix, it would just make sense to have Conor McGregor headline that. If they were to have their first live pay-per-view on Netflix, you need to have him headline. Whether you love him or hate him, the entire world will talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about this before, the Paul Tyson fight, the platform that Netflix has, and the fan base that they have, and even people who don't watch MMA and people who don't watch boxing, or even people who don't watch WWE, if you set up a good fight, if you set up a good match, people even complete Luddites to the I know that's not the right term, but complete unknowns to what it gets new fans in anyway with having that platform. And if you're gonna have that platform, you might as well go for broke. It would appear that Netflix has quite a bit of money, last I checked. So.
Oh yeah. You gotta bring out the big guns for that one. I want to touch on this just a little bit, because this kind of this was kind of big news in the MMA world, and a lot of people have been talking about it online, and it's about the Global Fight League, the GFL.
Are you sure it doesn't stand for Geriatric Fight League, Ryan?
Oh man,
I'm sorry. I listened to this interview with the guy. His name escapes me.
It's Darren Owens. He's actually Canadian. He's Canadian.
Oh, wow. And, I like when I listened to that, there's a level of optimism that I was like, this seems quite interesting, and let's see how it goes in execution. And oh man, I don't know. It just looked like the AI aspect. How when you mentioned this actually, is that when something looks like it's AI generated.
Yeah,
it's just yes, this is you couldn't hide behind it to save your life. It was just this doesn't look good at all. And people are getting drafted that you've got Tyron Woodley and Junior Dos Santos and I mean, who else?
Holy Home, Paige Van Zandt. I don't know the draft order. I just pretty much everyone that is not in the UFC got drafted.
Yeah, it just doesn't really, these are all people who are by no means, if you want to be a contender against UFC or against PFL or any of the other organizations, you got to bring in fresh talent. And I'm not to say that there isn't fresh talent in there. I'm sure there's a roster when they release the names. There's plenty of names on there, but there's a lot of names on there that I don't think anyone's clamoring to see fight again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, it's competition is healthy for the sport.
It's needed too. It's needed,
but I just don't know. It was not the greatest initial rollout, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I say this with respect. Like, I mean, like, the last thing you ever want to like come off as to like anybody is corny or cheap, right? And it doesn't, like, yeah, maybe they didn't spare any expense with the draft announcement. Like, they had like Brendan Schaub, and they had Mike Goldberg, and they had Robin Black. I can't remember who was the other person that was part of the draft panel. But like, those are three big names in the combat sports world, and those people aren't cheap. Those people aren't cheap to hire.
Oh, absolutely not. Like, I'm looking at some of these rosters, like who we got here? Like, when you got like guys like, you know, Alexander Gustafsson, you got Gegard Mousasi, Benson Henderson, who I thought had retired. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, that's a London. I'm just looking at it now. I'm just
yeah.
But like, there's a lot of guys in here that have stopped being, I hate to say it, stopped being relevant quite some time ago. Just gonna throw that out there. But I mean, yeah, I'll see what happens. Yeah, there's a few guys in here that I'm like, okay, well, that guy might have a good opportunity to, you know, carve his way in, make a platform for himself, increase the platform that he had built. I just don't know. Like Dylan Dennis?
Yeah, I saw that. Dylan Dennis got signed, and then like he reposted that, and like, you know, Dylan Dennis is just infamous in not just combat sports, but like anything that's like on Twitter, he's like the king of trolls and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And yeah, he's infamous, and not for any of the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like when you look at guys like Chris Weidman and Holly Holm, who had recently been released or had retired or quote unquote retired from the UFC. I remember Ariel actually did say this, that when Weidman announced his retirement before the 311 main card, I think it actually he noticed that in fine print, not fine print, but he said like has retired from the UFC. So I think at that point in his career, I think Dana and the team over at the UFC was probably just like, he's like, hey, the GFL are offering me a big lump of money to do this new thing. Let me out. Let me make some money on my way out, and call it a day. Which, if that is what happened, then power to them.
Yeah, and then like, you know, they let Chris Weidman off gracefully. They gave him that video package,
absolutely,
and the tribute and all that kind of stuff. And not a lot of, you know, ex-champions get that treatment. Like, for example, the recently fought Stipe Miocic. Did he get a video package?
Did he retire immediately after? Was that like, I think he did. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he got a video package. I think that, yeah, I don't know. I would like to assume that they'll
eventually do
something official. Maybe if they go to Ohio or something and he's there.
Yeah.
And they do like a bit of a video package, because I know when they intend to, they do a good job of it. So
yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, you know, I hope the GFL does well. I'm looking forward to, like, you know, seeing their first events and seeing how they all pan out, because like you said, competition is good. More options for fighters is good. More options for me as an announcer is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
No, I agree. Totally. And yeah, I hope it works out for him. I really do. I'm not like I'm not being an asshole. I do hope it becomes something that's viable and exciting. So.
Yeah. But like as of right now, like, you know, judging from like, you know, just the online perception from fans and other content creators like MMA On Point, I just recently watched a video that they did on the GFL draft. It hasn't been very positive, but I hope they can prove us all wrong.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So we have a fight card this week, and it's the return of Israel Adesanya. He's going to be fighting Imamov, Nassourdine Imamov. What do you think of that fight, man?
You know, I think this could potentially be really exciting. I generally do believe that Izzy is just on such a different level than Imamov. I think the last time I saw Imamov fight was when he fought Brendan Allen. I can't remember where that fight card was. Was it Kansas City? No, I might be wrong. Main event. When did they fight? September? Was that in France?
Right. Yeah.
All right. They were the co-main for the Moicano Saint Denis fight, right? And Brendan Allen is such a great grappler. I was quite impressed with Imamov, but like, I haven't really been too impressed with Imamov in the way things have gone. I think that he's like one of the few guys that is like, racked up a good win streak. He's got some good wins against some bigger names, especially like Jared Cannonier and Roman Dolidze, Brendan Allen. So he's on a good tear right now. I just think Izzy's on a different level. I think Izzy's kind of gone back to the lab and refined his skill set. It's really cool watching him and Robert Whittaker kind of like bury the hatchet and train and be pals, which I thought was really
super cool.
And even Whittaker said on Ariel show, it's just like his timing, his gauging of distance, his length, he's keeping it on the outside. I think Izzy, we haven't seen him. I mean, he's been fighting 5-round fights for such a long time, but we haven't seen him in a non-title implicated fight for a long time. So I think there's a little bit of that pressure slightly off his shoulders. He's always had a very cerebral and ethereal aura to him that, where he's not too concerned about belts. He's not too concerned about like the glory, so to speak. I think he's perfectly well off where he is, but I think we're going to see like the best Izzy we've seen in a while. And he looked really good against DDP.
Yeah.
He was basically winning that fight until he wasn't. So,
yeah.
And like, I think it all comes down to like recency bias for a lot of people.
That's right.
I think that with the Saudi Arabia cards, they've done a good job of having a big name at the top. While also I think it was Robert Whittaker fought Alice Guerra before, which was supposed to be him versus Hamzat, but like they always have a really exciting main event. And then the card is filled with quite a few interesting matchups. I had the list right here. A few good fights in there. Obviously Michael Venom Page going up against Shara Bullet. Shara Bullet's like kind of the weirdest kind of enigmatic guy on the Russian side of things. Incredible kickboxer that, and it's really cool seeing Venom Page going up in weight. He's usually a welterweight, so he's such a puzzle that's like really really hard to figure out.
Are we talking about Michael Venom Page?
We are,
yeah. He is a difficult puzzle to figure out, and this is going to be a very tough fight for him because Shara Bullet is a very high level striker, as is Michael Venom Page, but so far, I believe Shara Bullet is actually the favorite in this one, which
is crazy. It just shows how the how things shift in the scene, and when these guys, and again, Shara had some of these incredible highlight reel knockouts. I know he had that like double back fist knockout. I can't remember who he fought now, but that was a crazy knockout, and so. He's like a star in the making. He's 15-0. He's red hot right now. So interesting to see how he does against like a veteran like MVP. Yeah.
So that double that knockout that you're talking about, that was against Armen Petrosyan.
Armen Petrosyan, right?
Yeah. That was a good one. That was back in October.
Sweet.
I'm looking at Michael Venom Page's Tapology right now, and like his last match, he had a grappling match against Carlos Condit in November, and he actually won by decision. I think
which is great. Yeah,
that's a really big notch on your belt. And of course, like MVP, he has quite the resume actually. Like he's beaten the likes of obviously Kevin Holland. He's beaten the likes of Douglas Lima. He has Paul Daly on his resume. Paul Daly back in the day, for those that don't remember, that guy was that was one of the OG killers from the UK.
Absolute killer, yeah. And he obviously fought Mike Perry and bare-knuckle, which is just a different,
absolutely insane,
different beast altogether. And I thought that he had actually won the fight against Logan Storley at Bellator 281. Because I think that even if you're a dominant grappler and you're controlling people on the ground, you still have to do things on the ground.
Yeah.
You can't just be point fighting like that. And it's funny though, because like MVP has like this very karate heavy point fighting in and out style, which I think is just like really unique. You see very few guys like that. obviously Machida is one of those guys, and a few others. Obviously, Wonderboy Thompson as well. These karate style of like really getting in and out like really quickly. So I'm curious to see how both striking styles will mesh in a fight with him against Shara. So
yeah. And with that stance that MVP has, Shara will try his best to look for a leg and kick it as many times as he can.
Oh man, Shara Magomedov, he uses his feet like he uses his hands. Like he's able to
trippy.
Basically hit you with this like teep kick that's like a jab, and it's just like it's really exciting striking. So I that's a toss up for me. I have no idea how that fight's going to go, but I have a feeling it'll be a pretty good kickboxing match.
Out of curiosity, I'm going to go look up right now the betting odds for MVP, just because I'm not suggesting that anyone go bet on MVP, but I'm just genuinely curious because I do see the fight going the same way as you. This is easily a 50-50 fight. No, I don't want to log in. Hold on. Let's go to, so right now I'm on a Bodog. It's on my screen right now. Let's go to All Sports. Let's go to UFC MMA. Let's see.
I would use DraftKings. We don't have it. We don't have it in
Canada.
Yeah.
No, I'm a long-time Bodog user since 2009, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So as of right now, Michael Venom Page is a plus 153 against Shara Bullet. Shara Bullet.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, Shara Bullet is a minus 177. Actually, if you guys want some unsolicited betting tips, there's interesting odds in Bodog right now. So will the fight go to distance? Minus 220 for yes, plus 165 for no. That's actually I'd actually say no might be a good bet.
Yeah,
because you don't have to necessarily bet on who's going to win the fight, but if he'll even go all 3 rounds. And I would say with these two striking styles, there's a chance that it won't go to distance.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you got like going down the card here, you got like Sergey Pavlovich versus Lorenzo Rosenstrike. Again, these heavyweight fights are always super interesting because you really have no idea how they're going to go.
That will not go 3 rounds. That will not go.
That's exactly what I thought with Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. Was that the last Saudi card?
Yeah,
I was like, this fight's gonna be over in like 2 minutes, and it went to decision. So I don't know. I never know what's gonna happen with these guys, but especially these big boys. Rosenstrike and Pavlovich have like some of the heaviest hands in the sport. Pavlovich has like lunch boxes attached to his wrists, so I mean, you never know, but like these guys, there was a point in time right before Tom Aspinall and Pavlovich fought for the interim title that, Pavlovich was very much the scariest guy in the heavyweight division.
Oh yeah.
Scariest dude. And Tom made short work of him. So
yeah, he made it look easy.
So I'm never going to count out Pavlovich because he's a beast.
Yeah.
Truly terrifying.
Like Rosenstrike, I've been a fan of his for a long time, just because like one of my really good friends from the Netherlands, he's followed his career for a long time because that's where Rosenstrike is from and everything. The one like Rosenstrike's striking has always been excellent. The one knock on him, and it's like it's out of his control, it's his size. He's an undersized heavyweight, but it's also hard for him to make 205 if he wanted to.
Yeah, he's right in that like. Yeah, I mean, if there were more weight classes, because I've always been open to the idea of like a middle heavyweight or like just a heavyweight or a super heavyweight. So it's like,
yeah, like
if you're having trouble cutting down to 205, but you can make that
215,
like 215. Yeah.
Like,
if you had a gap of maybe like 225 as a limit, there's a possibility there. I wouldn't say no to that, but
yeah.
And like if one of these like Pavlovich is on a 2-loss skid right now, but if either one of these guys comes out and starches the other guy in the first round, I feel like they're right back into that mix, right?
Yeah, that's always been the crazy thing about the heavyweight division. Someone is always one shot away, right? Like Curtis Blades is always one shot away. Shoot. It just escapes me. Derek Lewis is always one shot away,
Yeah, we haven't seen Derek Lewis in there for a while. Maybe he's just taking some time off, and maybe we'll see him. I don't know who he would fight next. I don't know. But yeah, I haven't seen Derek Lewis for a while now. You say that.
Yeah.
I'm just scanning down the card now. Obviously, there's quite a few names here. But I just want to shout out in the prelims, you've got our Canadian girl, Jasmine. I'm gonna butcher her name. I think it's Yazdavicius. Yazdavicius.
Yeah. Yazdavicius.
Sweet. She's been great. She's really exciting to watch. She's going up against former title contender Mayra Buena Silva.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge fight for her.
That's a massive fight.
Jasmine's been just like, she's on a three win tear right now. She had a little bit of a step back with Tracy Cortez, but she's been doing great. Really kind of building a good name for herself as well. So it's exciting. I'm always going to unequivocally support the Canadian girl.
Me too.
I have no choice. Not that I have a choice, but I don't. That's like, I'm just going through the card. There's a few ones in here. Nothing super. It is a fight night. I do look forward to when the UFC and Saudi do a pay-per-view, because then that one's going to be really stacked.
big.
But these fight nights have been intriguing. They've been interesting. Terrence
McKinney is the headline fight of the prelim. Oh no, sorry, he's like the co-main of the prelim, I should say.
Co-main of the prelim, sweet.
Yeah, he's fighting Damir Hadzovic. Let's see, I'm not very familiar. The Bosnian bomber.
There you go. I'm not particularly familiar with him, but Terrence McKinney is he's one of those like young stars of the sport. He's had a little bit of a slip lately, but I'm always excited to watch Terrence McKinney. He's always really, he speaks well. He promotes a good fight. He's funny.
I like his social media. I like his social media work.
Big time.
I believe he just had a kid recently. So congratulations to him and his family.
Sweet, congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this card. I think it'd be good. I think it's good for a fight night. Like, at least the main card is intriguing enough to. And then these early cards are nice. You can watch them and drink a coffee and just be chilling.
Yeah,
it's always enjoyable when there's these fights overseas.
I'm looking at the time start right now. So like the first fight is supposed to be at 9 a.m. Eastern, so that would be 6 a.m. Pacific time for us. So this is breakfast fights. Breakfast fights are the best.
Sweet. I guess we should talk about BFL real quickly, huh?
Yeah, we most definitely should. So to let you guys know, I had a really long day that day. The doors opened at 4 p.m. and the last fight, I believe, ended at 11:30 p.m. So I clocked in the hours that day, but it's always a pleasure to work these cards, But like the main fight that we really want to talk about that really stood out, and the entire MMA world is talking about it, is Radley Da Silva's successful title defense against Drew Brokenshire. So Radley defended I believe he's a 4-time, if I'm right.
This was his third consecutive title defense.
Yeah. Okay. So this was his third title defense. So this was a third title defense. He beat a very tough, very durable veteran in Drew Brokenshire, and he did it in the most bloody and most violent way possible.
Oh man. So obviously he was coming off of that crazy viral spinning wheel kick knockout, where he the name escapes me who he fought. Sorry.
His name was Drake Randall, high level All-American wrestler.
Yeah, and I don't know how you can have a more viral knockout, but this is exactly what Radley needed coming out of that. He could have very easily grinded out a decision, because I know his prospects, his eyes are looking at making a jump to UFC. I think now, after that performance, he showed great wrestling. That elbow, when it really cracked in, and you could see right when it drew blood, that was just like such a vicious attack, and it was disgusting to be perfectly honest. There was a lot of blood on that canvas, and he was able, even with it being as slippery as it was, to sink in that choke. And like I said, this is exactly the kind of win that he needed to come off of the momentum of that knockout in September. And it just seems like you just got to get him up there now. Like three title defenses, 3 finishes. I think the UFC would benefit greatly to inject him into the featherweight division. Whether you have a fight night anywhere in Canada, or a pay-per-view, or he's better than Contender Series.
I think so.
I don't think we need to see him fight some regional guy. If he has to, I'm sure he's up for the challenge. But and again, Contender Series doesn't really kick off until September, so I think Radley would like to be active
for sure.
But yeah, no, I shout out to Radley. That was a crazy performance, and he did exactly what he needed to do.
Well, just to kind of set the table a bit and let you guys know a little bit about his resume. So he won the featherweight title from top prospect Maxime Soucy. So Maxime Soucy was a guy that was on the UFC's radar, and he's from Quebec. He trains out of TriStar. So that's how he won his title. We brought in a very tough Caleb Moctezuma from Mexico. So Caleb Moctezuma, he's a really good fighter. He has an 11-6 record right now, but he was very high on the list because this is Diego Lopez's guy, right? So we brought in Diego Lopez's guy, to challenge Radley Da Silva in the BFL, and he scored the rear naked choke against Caleb, and then of course he beat the All-American wrestler and Drake Randall with that wheel kick, and then of course he beat Drew Brokenshire. So the kind of resume that he has, he beat a top prospect that was, that had the UFC's eyes on him. He beat a top prospect from Mexico who the UFC was also looking at because he works with Diego Lopez. He beat a guy who was 6-0 before the fight, who was kind of probably going to Contender Series if he beat Radley Da Silva, and then he beat a top level veteran who they were essentially Drew is a tough guy, and he almost had that heel hook in the first round against Radley.
Oh man, yeah, I forgot to mention that. That you could really tell that Radley was he was in some agony, and you thought to yourself and those I get so anxious around heel hooks and rocks that they can just tear the living crap out of your knee. He managed to keep his composure and get out of there, and you wonder if going into the second round that there was any kind of lingering damage from that hold, because he was in there for a while.
Yeah, he was, and he fought that hard, man.
Yeah, and but for him to come back, keep his composure, and get the job done in the second round, and late into the second round. The resume speaks for itself. Even if you're not familiar with a lot of these names, Ryan, you did a great job of just going down the line and shedding some light on some of these guys that we may not know. But he's no slouch, man. And 6-1 with the kind of finishes that he's getting, this is what the UFC want.
Yeah, exactly.
They want guys to be exciting. They want to have these viral knockouts, and all these last three fights should be in every BFL highlight.
I think they will
for the remainder of time. So
for sure,
if that isn't enough to convince you, I don't know what is.
And his resume, it kind of reminds me of when you get your driver's license, you have all these prerequisites from the tester. It's he wants to see how you park, he wants to see how you change lanes, he wants to see if you shoulder check and all that kind of stuff, right? Basically, his resume is the checklist for what the UFC looks for. How does he handle adversity? Is he exciting? Is he marketable? Can he beat champions from other places? Can he beat champions from other region? Can he beat a veteran? He checked all the boxes. This guy deserves to be not in the Contender Series. He deserves to open up a fight night. He deserves to open up, if they did a pay-per-view in Canada, he should be the first fight, I'd say.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And like you said, he's checking all the boxes. He speaks well on the mic, which is great. He's respectful. He comes from, like you said, he has a really rich family lineage of capoeira. I don't know what especially I know these things take time, contracts and negotiations and whatever. But I think if the UFC doesn't snatch him up soon, you never know. Maybe the PFL might swing in and give him a really tasty offer. So I would encourage either promotion to start looking at this guy and take him very seriously.
Oh, for sure. Most definitely. He's I believe he actually, according to MMA Prospects, shout out to those guys, he was the North American prospect of 2024.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. And so then, I'm looking at his Tapology, and it just says that he's currently ranked as a number 79th pro featherweight, which looks like high up on the list. sorry, I mean, it looks low on the list, but I mean, this is marked out of like, if you think of the active featherweights in the sport right now, that's 79 is a good number to be at, especially being 6-1. So,
yeah, he's a guy to watch out for. Now, you know, I think actually we've done a good job of sticking within time for this episode. Maybe it's us. There isn't as much to talk about this time around, but by chance, did you listen to the Joe Rogan episode with Jiří?
Yeah, I did, man. Jiří is like I think he's like one of the coolest guys in the world.
I think so too.
I think he might actually be like, and I love how he was asking him about, like, do you watch tape? And he said, yeah, I watched Ong Bak. And like, I was like, and he's like, no, but do you watch fights again? Like, no, it was really, I thought it was a really good interview because, obviously English not being his first language, but he was really, I think that was a good setting for him to kind of let his character come out.
Yeah.
And you know, like, Joe, regardless of your opinion of what kind of the things sometimes he says, I think his MMA show has always been very consistently good. I'm always interested to see what the fighters have to say. And
me too.
We have a fake drinking game where there's certain things that Joe Rogan can mention in an MMA show episode, and I'm surprised he did not talk about Pereira's calf kick. He did not talk about the Marinovich system with BJ Penn. What else? He did mention the get rid of the cage and
basketball court.
So take a shot for that.
Yeah.
It's just I like that format that Joe has because I'm interested in what fighters have to say, especially post-fight or lead up to a fight. I know, like, I think he hasn't done that many episodes of that recently, so I think the last one he did before that was Bilal Muhammad, just after he had won the welterweight title.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Jiří's just interesting. He's super cool, and he obviously wants that Pereira fight. I don't blame him. Curious to see what they do with him. He just has a lot of respect for Jamal, and I think he does a really good job of, like, no, we don't need to be talking shit about each other. We don't need to be dragging each other down on social media. Like, we fight, we fight together, we drink together. And
yeah.
He's just like a nice, you know, his dedication to martial arts and just his whole vibe is something that I feel is lacking in the sport overall. So it's
I agree.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I really appreciated having that episode, and I love like how Joe was saying on that episode too, where the fans are starting to really value authenticity more than anything when it comes to fighters' personalities. They'd rather have a guy that's authentic and real, like a Jiří, like a Alex Pereira, rather than a guy that's like playing up a character times 50, because those can be fun. Those can be fun in doses, and maybe like for example, like the Colby Covingtons. I think I feel like he's too much, right? And he takes it way over the top,
Well, of course, MMA has taken a big page from like the WWE in the last let's just say, for the sake of the argument, probably say about 10 years. And but I always find the guys that are like the authentic guys always strike me as more
interesting.
The guys I'd rather watch. And
me too.
Guys I'd rather see win.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, like I love guys like Charles Oliveira, Tom Aspinall, GSP.
Yeah.
I think in the last year, Khalil Roundtree is just. I think he spoke on Joe's podcast as well.
Yeah, he did. And it was a good episode as well.
Just like really down to earth people that are like passionate about what they do, and they're good role models. I mean, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as well, being a fantastic role model, and like I said, Tom Aspinall being kind of cut from the same cloth as GSP, and just especially anyone who trains in mixed martial arts, like talking your way to the top, there's merit to that. You've got your Chael Sonnens, you've got your Conor McGregors, but I think the sport is lacking in those more cerebral and authentic guys, and I think the sport only benefits from guys like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And, it sets a, great example, like for the youth that they don't have to like, be controversial in order to get attention.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that it's controversial enough being a cage fighter. I think.
Yeah, exactly. But
Perfectly honest.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, like over the last few years, it's becoming less and less frowned upon, in my opinion.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's never been any more mainstream,
yeah, no,
right?
I agree. So, but yeah, it's always interesting to see guys like rise up through the ranks that are, you have like Cejudo that was like an Olympic gold medalist.
Hmm.
Like it's there's a lot of really hardworking athletes. Like, I mean, I've utmost respect. I would never be able to make the walk myself. So anyone who steps out of that tunnel and puts some gloves on their hands and and when the cage door closes, like, hey, it takes an unbelievable amount of gumption to do that. So all respect to these guys. But when it comes to the marketing aspect of these things, it's always a breath of fresh air to see someone
It is.
who's less about making headlines and more about letting their work speak for itself.
Yeah. Because like at the end of the day, that's what really speaks. It's how you perform in the cage or ring.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Well, I think we actually are finished on time for the first time in this third episode.
Like I said, third time's a charm, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, where can we find Aaron Paul Stewart online?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I recently started a Blue Sky account. I don't really know how that works yet, so maybe when I find that, I'll drop that. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Aaron Paul Stewart.
You can find him on IMDb as well.
Find me on IMDb, same name. Yeah, that's me.
Cool. Well, you can find me on all major social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Ryan Ventura 604. You can find me on X at Ryan Ventura 778. I do have a TikTok, but I barely touch it. It's there, right? I don't know. Is that even like legal still? Like in some places, like can you use it?
I think it became illegal, and then I think Trump saved the day and unbanned it. I don't know. I don't really use TikTok, so I'm not the best person to ask, to be perfectly honest. I have no idea. There's too many apps. There's too many apps out there.
Yeah, there's too many. It's just like fights. There's like so many fights, so many events, so little time, and that's the reason why we try our best to talk about the fights that we find interesting and that matter to us.
Yeah, and like Ozzy, speaking of like social media, I think I sent you that thing where you can now log UFC pay-per-views on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I saw that. That's super cool.
I actually think that was hilarious because it's like, I think I said to you, I'm a big movie guy.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, I like to do little Facebook reviews, and I have a Letterboxd, and I'm an actor and filmmaker, so I like to be in the now with that. But it's funny that you can now log. Like here, I'm actually gonna look at it right now.
Sure.
UFC 311. Let's see, and it's in there. There it is. I'll add that. I've watched it. What would you give, just for the sake of the argument, Ryan? What would you give UFC 311 out of 5? How many stars out of 5 would you give Makhachev versus Moicano as a card?
4.5.
4.5. That's good. And hey, first pay per view of 2025. That's great.
Like that.
I'm reading the first reviews. The reviews by the way, guys, the reviews of Letterboxd are always like, by and large, actually the best thing. There's some people who will write like a paragraph of like, this fight was really cool, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like someone says, the first one is, no, actually, I shouldn't say that out loud, but it says Frank Ocean has Peyton Talbot in full mount. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Islam GOAT status. Also, Talbot confirmed grapplet. I don't know what that means.
I don't know. I don't know what a grapplet is either. But yeah, man.
Don't want to know.
Yeah. Do I really want to know what that is? It sounds weird.
Nice. But yeah, awesome. Well, this is good talk, man. I guess we'll look forward to the fights next weekend, and if there's anything cool popping up, I don't know what else is.
Yeah,
there's always news.
Yeah. We'll chat about it. So our main thing is we're gonna try to release an episode every Thursday.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Aaron. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care, buddy.